Once you have the product with yourself, you see all the companies listed down here. You'll have your companies here. And once you are prepared for these companies, trust me, you can prepare for any other company. You can crack any other interview. Correct? You choose your company. And after that, you will have the whole company overview along with the preparation curriculum based on the role that has been selected. You will have the whole interview process coming from online assessment, recruiter culture screen, the hiring manager technical screen. Everything is listed down there. You go through everything, you understand everything, you learn the most asked questions so that you are prepared for what can come your way. And you also get the interview experiences. You understand what others have already felt, what others have already seen through the interview, so you can learn better, you can shape your perspective in that way. Along with that, when you go through the curriculum, you can see that you have interviews for every particular session. For example, if you are learning DSA and Java fundamentals and you have understood the concurrency and multi-threading, you give that interview. You understand how well you are able to answer for that. Similarly, you move ahead and you prepare for every particular session. In similar way, you have different roles. You can choose the role you want to work through. You can choose the role you are preparing for. And herein you get the option to start an interview or resume if you have already started. So let's just try giving one interview together and we'll see how things go. So the estimated duration of every interview is about 10 to 15 minutes. It's an AI powered mock interview and it will stimulate a real interview experience so that you perform better in your actual interview. You'll have your pre-interview setup, the best practices, the important guidelines, and you give the device permissions. It will take a few seconds. Once you have all the permissions, you can start your interview. You have all the permissions, you can start the interview. It will take a few seconds to start in. Perfect. So I am a data analyst and I am actually working as a data analyst for about 2 to 3 years. And I am quite familiar with the data visualization concept. And I know how much importance it holds to briefly explain the KPIs and briefly explain the data to someone who is not from the background and who does not know anything about that. Okay, so we have been working with the company and we want to, take up how much customers there is, the retention rate, and how much we have the return customers. And we have like thousands of customers, and it's not feasible that you take up the rows and you read the data individually. So that is where your visualizations, your graphs play a very important role because you can actually see through thousands and thousands of data in just one or two graphs. Okay, perfect. So I believe that the graphs depend from what type of data you have. Let's suppose you have like a categorical data, so you may go with something like a bar graph. But something if you have like a data where it's a time analysis data, so a line chart would be preferred more than a bar graph. So that is how you decide. And initially it may be a task of deciding, it may be a challenge of whether which particular graph you have to decide. But once you get a hang of it, once you have practiced into things, I think you yourself understand what type of graph would be the best to showcase. If it's something that you can spread across the chart, a radar chart can go across, and if pie charts can also come across in case of categorical formations. I believe that before visualization, the cleaning part of the data is very important. Once you have like a properly formatted, a clean data set, then you work on the visualization part, and you yourself has an overview of what the data is speaking about, and then you can actually showcase what to another people also, to different stakeholders also, because once you have the idea of what the data is trying to tell, you can clearly communicate about that. Okay, so for my experience, we had like, different formations when we had to make complex data more accessible for an audience. So what we have tried to do is like what I have tried to do is I have tried to make the data more communicative. Because if you cannot communicate through your data, if you cannot get the hidden trends, that is something that cannot be addressed properly. And that has been the major challenge of how you can get the hidden trends and how you can showcase different things that a person just by seeing through the data cannot understand. Okay, so there was one instance when we were working on something related to, CO2 and like carbon emissions. And we thought that, China or India could come as the first, top countries. But it turned out to be Bhutan is coming up as like, a top country for that. And that was not really expected, like just by a mere knowledge of without that data. And to experiment, to actually showcase that and to experiment the scenario better, we use different graphs, we use the KPI models basically to showcase that. So basically this was done for a particular research, so that was the insight that is gave. And we under for explaining it to stakeholders and for actually mentioning it to stakeholders, a proper KPI card was made so that it can be highlighted other than all the data that was there, because it was something that was not expected, it was something unexpected that came across. So KPI cards became one of the best solution to that. I would say to practice more, because when you initially start with data visualization and storytelling, you're confused about the layouts, about the KPI cards, about where to place which particular graph. But as you practice more and more, you understand why graphs are important, which particular graph is to be used, and how that is to be used. You do not need like 10 to 12 graphs in your dashboard. You need five, maximum four or five graphs, but they should be actually speaking for themselves. No, thank you so much. That was it from my side. Thank you so much. and it was this simple.